To download a full printable PDF version of this pattern, click the link on the screen now, in the description below, or by going to clubcrochet.com/shield. Hey there, I'm Louie, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how to crochet this tiny Hyrulean shield from The Legend of Zelda. Here it is on a tiny finger puppet version of Link that I made. I have a pattern for this as well, but we'll be talking about that later. Really quick before I get going, if you post this on any social media like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or Crafty Amino, post it with hashtag Club Crochet and tag me at Louie's Loops. I like to see what other people do with this pattern, and right now I'm doing a giveaway where I'll be choosing one person at the end of the month to give away a free 30-day membership to Club Crochet, which is a subscription service I made for crocheters. We'll be talking about that a little bit more later. But yeah, post it with hashtag Club Crochet and tag me at Louie's Loops. I want to see what you do with it. Okay, well, for this pattern, you're going to need the following colors of yarn. You'll need blue, yellow, gray, and red. For this pattern, I'm using a worsted weight size yarn. This is made with medium weight, I think it's Vanna's Choice, and this is made with cotton worsted weight yarn. The size of yarn doesn't really matter as long as you're using the same kind of yarn for the entire piece, except for the little embroidered on bird here. So for the bird, because I'm using size worsted weight yarn, which looks like this, for this red yarn here, you can use red thread, or what I usually do is I take red yarn and I just split it in half like this, which I've already done. Let me grab some of that right here. So just split some red yarn in half if you're using worsted weight size yarn. If you're using medium weight size yarn, which is slightly bigger, use a full strand of yarn like this. We'll also be using a size G6 4mm crochet hook for this. If you're using medium weight yarn, use a size I9 5.5mm crochet hook, but we'll be using this G hook instead. Yeah. All right, let's get hooking. So to start, we're going to take our blue yarn here, and you can either use the chain 2 method or the magic loop method. I'll be using the magic loop method just because it makes it a little easier to keep a very tight hole in the beginning. And into the magic loop, or into the second chain from the hook, you want to single crochet 6 times using this blue yarn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and one more right here is 6. Now I'm going to tighten my magic loop, if I can. Here we go. Okay. All right, so that's the end of round 1. For round 2, you're going to want to work into each stitch all the way around. This pattern is worked in a round, meaning that you're not going to turn around for the entire piece. It's just going to be worked in a spiral. So starting in the first single crochet right here, we want to increase into each stitch all the way around. So I'm going to work around this tail end here. And an increase is just single crocheting twice into the same stitch. So there's our first increase right there. So you want to do that 6 times, 6 increases, 1 in each stitch. And after crocheting around this tail for around 4 stitches, I'm going to drop it. We're going to use this to sew on a safety pin or a hairpin, or to sew it onto amigurumi later. And by doing an increase into each stitch all the way around, you're going to go up from 6 stitches to 12. So you should have 12 stitches by the end of round 2. Okay. I have one more increase right here. And I'm going to stop 1 stitch before the end. So here's my last stitch. I'm not going to finish and close it up yet, because we're going to grab our gray yarn and we're going to be doing some weird color changes in the third round. So we're going to place our gray yarn over the end of our yarn and our loops. Okay, so just like that. We're going to hold it down with the index finger of our dominant hand, and with our non-dominant index finger, I'm going to place it in between the two colors of yarn, and I'm just going to flip it under like that. Okay, not over, I mean I couldn't do that, but under. And then we're going to grab it with our crochet hook and just pull it through the 2 stitches to finish that stitch. We'll pull our blue yarn a little bit tighter now. Okay, so now we're on to round 3. And like I said, round 3 has a lot of strange color changes, so bear with me and take it one stitch at a time. To start, we're going to be making a mini peacock. That is the name for this weird stitch that I made up. I don't know what it's actually called, but I call it a mini peacock. In fact, if you know what it's called, let me know in the comments. What I do is I'll chain 2 using our gray yarn here. 1 and 2. And I'll pull the second chain a little bit tighter. And into the back loop of the first chain that you made right there, or the second chain from the hook, we're going to get our crochet hook in there. And we're going to slip stitch 1, meaning you just pull the yarn through that loop and then through the loop on the stitch like that. We'll be doing another one of those in just a little bit, so just hold tight. So there's our first stitch right there. You want that mini peacock all in gray. And then in the next stitch right there, or the first stitch for us, we're going to be working a single crochet, but we want the bottom of the stitch to be blue and the top to be gray. So what we do is we'll place our index finger in between, we'll flip it so that the blue is over the gray, go into the next stitch, grab the blue and pull it through, and then we'll switch over to the gray and pull the gray yarn through the 2 stitches like that. Okay? There we go. For the next stitch, we want to increase with a chain 1 in between the increases, and we want it all to be in this gray yarn. So don't worry about the blue, just ignore it for a sec. Go into the stitch, pull, loop through and do a single crochet, and then we'll chain 1, and then into that same stitch do another single crochet. So we're basically doing an increase with a chain 1 in between. That'll make a slight spike on top of the shield. Okay, into the next stitch we want just a regular single crochet with blue on the bottom, so we pull through with blue, and gray on the top, so we pull through with gray. Okay, now we'll do another mini peacock using this gray. So again, that's chain 2 with our gray yarn here. Pull the second chain a little tighter, and into the back loop slip stitch 1. Okay. And now we'll just be single crocheting it with that gray on top and blue on the bottom for the next 4 stitches. So 4 stitches where we're just going to go into the stitch, pull blue through, and then pull gray through. So there's 1, switch back over to blue, back to gray, 2, 3, and there's our 4th. Okay. Into the next stitch, we'll do an increase, all in gray, but with a mini peacock in between the increase. So what that means is we'll start by going into the stitch and pulling through and finishing that single crochet in gray. And then we'll do a mini peacock, so we chain 2, pull that second one a little tighter, go into that back loop of the second chain from the hook, do a slip stitch, so there's our mini peacock, and then do another single crochet into that same stitch in gray. Okay, so we're almost done with the shield here. So for the next 3 stitches, we're just going to do our regular single crochets in half blue, half gray. So there's our first one. 1, 2, one more, and 3. Okay, and to this last stitch here, we'll use our gray yarn, and we'll just do a slip stitch, all in gray. Okay, and then we can cut both of these yarn pretty high up, like around like there. Cut them. And we're going to pull this gray yarn all the way through. Take our needle, thread it on the gray yarn. We'll go around the mini peacoat with our yarn from the back, so like this. Go around the back of it, and then back into the stitch where that yarn is coming out. So here's where the yarn is coming out. You want to go back into that stitch, and then into the back of a few loops right there. Okay, we're basically hiding the end. You don't want to pull it too tight, but you also don't want it too loose. Okay, now we want to set ourselves up before we continue on. So to do that, we'll take our other strand of gray yarn right here, thread that on the needle. And what we're doing here is we're just setting ourselves up to make it easier when we embroider on the detail. We're going to go into the back loops of just a few stitches right here. You're basically trying to get the gray yarn over further towards this side. Okay, and then with the blue end right here, so here's our original tail blue end, and here's our other one. We'll thread that on a needle, and we want to get this one closer to the very center. So we're just going to go into a few stitches. Okay, so that's like 4 stitches right there, and we're just trying to get closer to the center. Okay. And there's the end of our first part for the shield. Here you can see it's got everything but the detail, and I have a very specific way that I like to add my detail. But before I continue there, I'd like to talk to you about Club Crochet. Club Crochet is a subscription service that I started for crocheters. You get things like early access to patterns, so Club Crochet members got access to this pattern I think a week or so early. You get extra patterns and projects and exclusives like this crocheted miniature finger puppet link. Club Crochet members got this one. And you get monthly kits mailed directly to your door with all the yarn that you need to make one of those month's patterns. So this month's Club Crochet kit is for this miniature link. So you get all the yarn that you'll need to make this pattern, and the eyes and the stuffing and yeah, everything that you need. This month's theme was Zelda, hence link, and here I have a little crocheted Zelda. This is another Club Crochet pattern this month. I'm working on Ganon and a Link hat, and here's a little Boko Goblin from Breath of the Wild. I made him my own style, but yeah. So check that out and become a member at clubcrochet.com. Thanks so much for watching that, and yeah, let's get back to the pattern. Okay, so now I want to add a bunch of detail to this shield. So to start, let's add the Triforce on the top. We can get this crochet hook out of the way there. And you just need a little bit of this yellow yarn. In fact, this is way too much. All you need is like this much yarn. So we'll cut that. Throw that to the side. And thread it on a needle. And the Triforce that I make is very simple. I don't like to put too much detail in the Triforce itself because it's really difficult to do. So I start by just going through the top right there. And then down to the side. And you can go through either this hole, but I like usually to go right there. Kind of in between that hole, or there's like a little stitch under it. And there we go. And then back through the top. And then down through the left in the same kind of situation. So like you could go through this hole, but I like going just a little bit lower. It makes it more of a right triangle, you know, a right angle. And then finish up by going through where you came or you went down through for the first yellow, so right there, and then back down through where you went out for the other one. So we're just making a simple triangle there, okay, with a hole in the middle. And you can fill that hole if you want, but I like to keep it open. And then you'll just double knot it on the back. You can hide these ends, but I just figured that, you know, people don't usually see the backs of this anyhow, so I don't think it really matters if you hide the ends or not. I just like leaving them long, not like super long, not like this long, but let's cut the ends like that. Okay. Just long enough so it won't poke out the sides and stuff. Next up, we'll be making our bird in the center. So we want to grab our red yarn, and remember how I said I threaded the red yarn in half. So I have basically red thread instead of red yarn. So if you have just red thread, this will work as well. And again, I'll just put that on the end of the crochet hook. And there's a very, very specific way that I do the bird every single time the same way. So let me show you what we're basically trying to make. We're trying to make that symbol. Okay? So to start, I go through the very center, and then down through the stitch to the right there. And you want to pull the yarn almost all the way through, leave a little bit of an end so you can double knot it. Just hold that end up to the top. I'm just going to hold all the ends at the top like that. You want to come back through the center, and then down through the stitch to the left. So not this one, that's the one directly under it, but right here through the left. Okay, so we're making basically a small arrow. And then you want to come back out through that stitch to the bottom, right here. And then down through just above these two, the gray yarn right there. Okay, so now we have our basic arrow up with a gap in between the arrow. Now we're going to make our right side of the wing. So we come out through the stitch to the right here. Okay. And down through, right through the center of this stitch, right here. So you want to go right through the center of that stitch. Okay, see, so you make a little line, and then come back out through that same stitch that you started in, and then down through the next stitch up right here. Okay, so making a little V. And then you want to come up through the center of this stitch. Okay, you want to come up through the back of the center of this stitch. This is what it looks on the back. So right in between these two and under that blue bar. I'm going to come down through there and see how it's coming out through the center. And then back down through this stitch above it to make a straight line. So we kind of made a little U. And then you want to go up through the next stitch up right there. And then down through the stitch above that right here. And here's what it should look like now. Okay? Then you'll come out through where that stitch came out. So right there. And then to make it rounded, you're going to go around this bar, on the bottom of the bar, not through the top, but the bottom. And then down through the gray end right here. And this will round it out. See how it made it very round? Okay, now we're going to do the left side. And the left side is relatively the same. So we go up through the next stitch, down through the center right here, out through the same stitch and into the next stitch up right there. So we're making that little V, and then up through the center of that next stitch down, so we're making that weird square U again. So we're going back down through this stitch. Okay, see how we made that little I guess N now? And then up through the next stitch up and down to make a horizontal line again. Remember, through the center of that stitch. Okay, there you go. Out through that same stitch that you came out originally. And then we're going to do that same thing down. So we go through this bar up and then through the center of that gray. And there you go. That's how you make that little eagle symbol. And now you can double knot it with this red, but I'm going to go up a few stitches, go into the back loops here, just to get it closer to the red yarn so that I'm not double knotting it too far away. We're just going to double knot this red yarn because we're done with it. If I can. There we go. Okay. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now would be a great time. Please subscribe to the channel. And if you press that little bell icon, you'll get notified whenever I post new free patterns like this. And if you like the video down below, it'll really help the channel. Okay, so now we can make our little gray symbols. So the Hyrule shield has these little tiny gray silver things. So the great thing is we can use our long tail here to make that. So we'll thread that onto our needle. And I come out through just to the right of the Triforce, right here, up right there. It's hard to tell, but I like coming right to the right of that Triforce, and then down through the center of the stitch just above the edge of that wing, so like right there. Okay. So yeah, make a little line. And now we want to go to the other side. I'm going to go in through the backs of a few stitches on my way over. So let me move this yellow yarn out. We're just going to go ahead and go through the backs of some of these stitches. You can go straight to the other side if you want, but I like to avoid making too many long bars of yarn because it has a chance of getting stuck on stuff then. Okay. And we're going to come out through the left of where that Triforce is. Right there. Okay, so I came out through the middle of a stitch, and that's where I wanted to come out of. And then go down through the stitch just above the left wing. Okay, so there you go. And then we can just double knot these two in the back. Now you can use these two blue tail ends. Let's cut this gray yarn. There we go. You can use these two long blue tail ends here to sew onto your amigurumi or onto a pin like this, or onto, I think it might be cool to make it onto a little hairpin so you can have a like a bobby pin, hair pin thing. Yeah, thanks so much for watching. If you want to get the pattern for this crocheted link, finger puppet, or little Zelda, or Ganon, which I haven't finished just yet, but Ganon, all these patterns are going to be up at clubcrochet.com, so you can get them there. Thanks again for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe down below. Pasta la pizza, and happy hooking. Yeah.